Good afternoon, everybody. Today we're going to hold a hearing and signing for 4 bills to establish a retirement savings program for New Yorkers. This is something we've been working on for a long time, finally coming to fruition. And to expand the right to counsel and educate tenants about their rights in housing court. So today we're looking at intros 888A, 901A, 1529A, and 2050A. We're also holding a public hearing on the bill that makes the Open Streets program permanent. This is a wonderful addition to the city. That is intro 1933A. So we will be holding a hearing today, but the signing will come at a later date. Now, let's start with retirement savings. Today, we fulfill a commitment from the state of the city, actually back in 2019, a vision related to retirement security for New Yorkers, but it's a vision that we could not fulfill because of a different administration in the White House in Washington. I'll leave it at that and say with the election of 2020, the door has opened now to finally be able to protect New Yorkers who don't have sufficient retirement savings. So this is a really important step to create our own New York City retirement savings program for New Yorkers who work in the private sector but don't have a pension or retirement plan of their own. Over 1 million New Yorkers work a whole lifetime but don't have anything to show for it once they retire. They've earned, obviously, through their hard work, the right to retire in peace and security, and that means financial security as well. These 2 bills ensure that New Yorkers will have more savings for their retirement and will have that ability to breathe a sigh of relief that they know there's something to protect them up ahead. So that's crucial, those 2 bills. Now, another crucial point today, we're talking about the needs of tenants who have gone through so much in the pandemic. So many people have worried about keeping a roof over their heads, struggled to pay the rent. The legislation today ensures that the rights of tenants are respected, and we have to make sure that tenants know if, God forbid, the landlord that they have brings a case against them in housing court, that they know their rights and they know where to turn for help. So these 2 bills today educate tenants about their rights in housing court and expands the city's right to counsel law citywide. This is what a recovery for all of us means: protecting everyone, giving everyone economic security, protecting the rights of working people, making sure that people can stay in their home, that they can retire in peace. This is the kind of city that we need to keep building. And we're also going to talk today about open streets. I mentioned earlier, open streets have been a revelation, something that came out of the pain of COVID, but proved to be an amazing, positive addition to this city. We've seen how effective open streets are. We've seen the energy created. I remember vividly walking down Fifth Avenue in Park Slope, Brooklyn, my neighborhood, and seeing just an incredible kind of carnival-like atmosphere, something very positive that came out of a tough time, but now it's something that we're going to make permanent. So the hearing today, the bill signing coming up later, but this is about making sure that New Yorkers get the most out of life in the city and get to enjoy their neighborhoods to the fullest, and that's a great step forward for everyone. Okay, summarizing the bills, intro 888A creates an opt-in auto-enrollment payroll deduction IRA program for employees who are not offered retirement plans through their private employers. Intro 901A establishes a retirement savings board to facilitate the implementation of the employee retirement program. Intro 1529A requires the Human Resources Administration's Office of Civil Justice to collaborate with community groups to educate tenants on their rights in housing court. And Intro 2050A speeds up the timeline for full citywide implementation of the housing court right to counsel law, moving it from July 31st, 2022 to June 1st, 2021, meaning just days from now. Finally, Intro 1933A would require the Department of Transportation to operate a permanent, wonderful open streets program. I want to thank everyone who's been a part of all these bills, including our Department of Finance Commissioner Sharif Solomon, the city's Chief Pension Investment Advisor John Adler, our Social Services Commissioner Steve Banks, our Transportation Commissioner Hank Gutman, And of course, Speaker Corey Johnson, thank you for helping to make all this great legislation happen. And now I want you to hear from sponsors and key legislators in each of these cases with this legislation. I know each of them is proud today. They have every right to be. First, the sponsor of Intro 888A, Councilmember Ben Kallos.
Thank you, Mayor de Blasio. Good afternoon. I'm Councilmember Ben Kallos, and before this, I was an ERISA attorney. And I'm here to save New York, or at least help New Yorkers save. New Yorkers should have a right to retire. With 4 million private sector workers in New York City, and 2/3 of them aren't participating in saving for retirement through their employers, in part because they just don't have them. Nearly half of New Yorkers near retirement age have less than $10,000 saved for retirement. If we want New York City to lead the recovery, we need to make it easier to earn money, save money, and retire. We wrote the new regulations with the Obama White House and the EVSA. Then we fought Trump, Steve Bannon, who put this at the top of his list to block for big banks. 2 acts of Congress, but with the Biden administration, we have the support we need. Today, we are all changing, and today we're changing everything with a right to retire and retirement security for all. New Yorkers over 21 working more than 20 hours a week for an employer with 5 or more employees who don't already offer a retirement account would be automatically enrolled with a 5% payroll deduction. This would be at no cost. It would be another deduction just like a transit check or health insurance. Retirement security for all will help 1.5 million private sector's workers. It would be low fee, make it easy for employees to save, and it would be portable. Gig workers, entrepreneurs, and businesses with less than 5 employees could join voluntarily. Also known as Secure Choice, California, Illinois, and Oregon have already launched. The first in the nation auto IRA for private sector workers, launched in 2017 as Oregon Saves, already has 2/3 of employees participating, with more than 100,000 funded accounts, 1/3 of which span multiple employers. They've got nearly $100 million saved in only 4 years, with an average monthly contribution of $139. I want to thank Speaker Corey Johnson for getting this done. To John Adler, Director of the Mayor's Office of Pensions, with whom we've been working on this since 2013 when he was back at SEIU, and I was spending too much time administering a 401k at a software company for Bill Samuels back in 2013. To Labor Chair Danique Miller for holding the first hearing on studying this idea. The then public advocate, now Attorney General Tish James, who actually helped author this legislation. And of course, to Mayor de Blasio for elevating the right to retire in the national dialogue and for hopefully signing this bill today.
Thank you so much, Ben. And I know this has been a labor of love for you, and thank you for sticking with it. You're right. We had a little hiccup during the Trump years, but the Biden years are a much better time for working people, and the door is opened again so we can get this done. So thank you for your leadership, Ben. And now I want to turn to the chair of the Committee on Civil Service and Labor. He's also the sponsor of Intro 901A, and he is a champion for working people, Councilmember Danique Miller.
Good morning and good afternoon, and thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate you, and this has been certainly a labor of love. Appreciate your steadfastness on this issue, along with my colleagues, and in particular Ben Kallos there. Yeoman's work, thank you. Retirement security for all has been a huge priority of the community on civil service and labor. Last year in 2019, we thought we were close, and we had some major rallies at City Hall with our allies, including AARP and others, and hoping that we can get this package passed. At that time, data showed that 33% of all New York City private sector workers aged 25 to 64 were participating in the retirement plan, woefully insufficient. We knew that this was a big deal and that retirement savings was a must. But we could not imagine the conversation that we'd be having now by virtue of what we've seen over the past year. Yes, we had hiccups with the past administration, but COVID-19 really highlighted the need for savings and financial stability. particularly in communities of color. Most recently, we've seen studies that talk about wealth gaps in communities of color, African American, Latino communities that lag behind nearly 10 times behind their white counterparts, and only highlighted upon retirement when the majority of your wealth is accumulated through income. My bill, Intro 901, creates the Retirement Savings Board that will facilitate and oversee the program's implementation and set forth the powers of the comptroller and the provisions of the program. The city's ultimate responsibility is to secure our economy long-term and support future retirees. Without retirement savings, New Yorkers are often forced to work into their 70s and to rely on government assistance. Today's bill signing reaffirms the city's commitment to ensuring workers have a better quality of life upon retirement, which is so absolutely necessary. We have to value workers during retirement the same way that we value them when they are delivering critical services and making this great city what it is. And that's what makes the passage of this legislation so absolutely important. It is something that is long overdue. And I want to thank you, Mayor de Blasio, for your vision and your support on this, as well as Speaker Johnson. As was mentioned, then public advocate, now Attorney General Tish James, and the role that she played in it. And certainly Ben Kalos, thank you, brother. Thank you for your steadfastness and all of your work, along with my senior policy advisor, Corey Birak, and others that knew that this was so absolutely important. Look forward to its implementation, and this is going to change lives. Thank you so very much. Proud to be a part of it.
Thank you so much, Council Member, and I know as chair of this committee, you really think all the time about what we need to do to help working people. Well, what we're going to do here is going to reach up to 1 million New Yorkers and give them the security they need. So I know this is a day you should be very, very proud of, and thank you for your leadership.
Thank you. Absolute game changer.
Now let's go and talk about, as we said at the beginning, talk about the rights of tenants and protecting tenants. And this has been an area that this administration is focused on, the council's focused on. Extraordinary work has been done, particularly when it comes to the right to counsel law. And I want to give a lot of credit where credit is due to Councilmember Mark Levine, who's really championed this notion for years. And it's a notion that was groundbreaking in this city to ensure legal support for everyday New Yorkers, particularly low-income New Yorkers, so they could protect their homes, protect their families. It's an idea that's now been emulated around the country. So congratulations, Councilmember Levine, for that. And today we take another step, sponsor of Intro 1529A and Intro 2050A, Councilmember Mark Levine.
Thank you so much, Mayor de Blasio. Thank you for what you, your team, have done to make implementation of right to counsel so far, lowering the eviction rate in New York City, and sparking a national movement, as you mentioned. Now, 6 or 7 cities at least have followed New York's lead. The first state has passed right to counsel, Washington State. It's gaining momentum in Congress. It all started here. And I'm just grateful to you, to Commissioner Steve Banks, to Jordan Dressler, and everyone at the Office of Civil Justice Coordinator for making this a success so far. But as you know, we had planned for a 5-year implementation because there's so many housing court cases. And even today, still most zip codes are not formally included in the program. Well, we're facing post-pandemic, once the eviction moratorium is lifted, what could be an unprecedented avalanche of eviction cases. And ahead of that, we felt it was urgent to pass this bill, Intro 2050, to immediately take right to counsel to every zip code in all 5 boroughs. And I'm just thrilled that we're taking this action today so that ahead of, again, this post-pandemic period, every tenant who needs an attorney in New York City will have one. And I'm also grateful for the second bill in this package, Intro 1529, which actually will require that the city fund community-based groups in neighborhoods throughout the city to proactively inform tenants of these rights so that people know if they're facing abuse or harassment by a landlord and are worried about an eviction case, they know they'll have someone to stand with them. And that will give them the strength to fight back. So these two bills together, an extremely important package coming at this critical time thank you again to you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank Speaker Corey Johnson for being extremely dedicated to the package, chair of the General Welfare Commission Committee, Steve Levin, who's pushed this forward expeditiously. I want to thank the incredible coalition of civic work, the right to people's works on this issue. And so many who have met enough for tenants possible much and past there.
Okay, council member, we didn't get all of that, but we know you're happy today for good reason, and congratulations. I know, again, this has been a long-standing effort on your part and a labor of love, so another step forward today. Now we're going to hear from folks who have signed up for public testimony. First, Beth Finkel, old friend Beth Finkel, good to have you here from AARP, New York State.
Thank you, Mayor. We are so pleased to be here. I think as we've all discussed, this has been a long time coming and a lot of hard work by a lot of people. I want to thank you in particular. I want to thank the speaker. I want to thank council members Kalos and Miller because they really led the charge on this. And we've been so excited to work on it on behalf of our 750,000 New York City members. So thank you for this critical work. We know that personal retirement savings are crucial to economic stability. The average household in the United States only has about $14,000 saved for their retirement, and we know that's not going to cut it. So now, because of this great legislation, we know that New Yorkers who don't have retirement savings plans will now be 15 times more likely to save for their retirement. What an achievement that is. This program now provides an easy pathway for workers to start building a safety net and grow the savings they need to control their own futures. So really, we're so excited. I'm sorry I can't be in person with you all today at City Hall and literally give you all a big hug from all of the AARP because this is just a tremendous accomplishment. So thank you all.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you for your advocacy. I know this is exactly the kind of thing you and your colleagues at AARP have been leading the way on, so thank you. And now he got a shout out earlier from Chair Danique Miller. My pleasure to welcome Corey Birak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. More than 6 years ago, I wrote about the plight of many individuals who risk spending their later years in or near poverty, and too many retirees quickly face inadequate replacement for their income as they retire. Social Security alone does not cut it. These individuals lack any supplemental income, pensions, savings, retirement accounts to help them in their elder years. This impacts already constrained spending less. I shared these concerns with Chairman Danique Miller, with whom I worked previously to his taking office in 2014 and continue to informally advise. I commend Councilman Miller and his colleague Ben Kalos for their legislative foresight to develop a public retirement program for private sector employees who otherwise lack access to any employer-sponsored retirement plans. Enacting these intros empowers the city to help many working families to live more securely in their retirements. It's essential that workers get assistance in saving for their later years and avoid income insecurity in their golden years. When I drafted my commentary in February 2015, the average annual Social Security benefit was a bit more than $15,500. 6 years later, the annual benefit estimate reached just over $18,500, according to AARP. Importantly, this pro-family initiative imposes no fiscal impact on the city nor requires any employer contribution, but it does empower workers, and I commend the sponsors and the administration for working out this far-sighted program and urge you to sign these progressive bills into law. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Corey, and thank you for sticking with this issue for so long. Persistence pays off, so thank you very much. Next, we're going to talk about the Right to Counsel legislation and hear from the Right to Counsel Coalition, Randy Dillard.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor de Blasio, for signing this bill into law. And I want to thank the two sponsors of the bill, Mark Levine and Vanessa Gibson, and all councilmen that signed on to the bill, and the speaker for bringing the bill to the floor. My name is Randy Gillett. I'm a council leader and a member of the steering committee, Right to Council. First, let us give a moment of silence to all people that got lost in the middle of, that died in the middle of the pandemic, and to our council leaders that we have lost. So let's give them a moment of silence. Today is a huge victory for families in New York City to have legal representation in housing court. Tenants no longer have to be afraid, no longer have to sign stipulations without knowing what they are signing. They will be able to ask questions and get answers. This is also a huge victory for organizers who can educate communities about this new right and to help tenants form tenants association to help others in their community. I also want to give thanks and appreciation to all the tenant leaders and attorneys of, of this movement. And I want to give a special appreciation to the Right to Counsel Steering Committee, Susanna, Malika, Andy of New York Law School, Jenny of Housing Court Answers, Sandra of Garden Riverside, Marika, Safety Net Projects, Aga, Flatbush Tenant Coalition, Lorena, Catholic Migration Services, and Pablo of Castle. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you so much, Randy, and thank you for acknowledging all the good folks who have worked so hard for this day. Thank you for your efforts as well. And now on the topic of open streets, again, it's been such a great victory for this city. My pleasure to introduce Erwin Figueroa of Transportation Alternatives.
Thank you, Mayor de Blasio, Commissioner Gutman, Council Speaker Johnson, Councilmember Rivera, Councilmember Rodriguez, and all our other partners for supporting open streets. My name is Erwin Figueroa, and I'm the Director of Organizing and Transportation Alternatives, one of the founding members of the Open Streets Coalition. The Open Streets Coalition originated in April of 2020 to respond to the demand for open space during the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. The coalition now counts over 175 member organizations from all 5 boroughs, from block and tenant associations to merchants associations to citywide organizations. With open streets, we saw not just survival, but also a full embrace by New Yorkers. Open streets help reconnect communities and help bring a sense of normalcy during a challenging year. Open streets also allow restaurants and businesses a way to survive and serve the community. They made clear how our streets can be put to better use to ensure an equitable recovery from COVID-19, which is at the core of our 25 by 25 challenge for our city's next leaders. This year, open streets have gone from a temporary measure to a full-fledged part of New York City infrastructure. Thank you, Mayor de Blasio and the Department of Transportation, who have stuck with and adapted the program to better serve local communities. We also like to thank the Council Speaker, Johnson, Councilmember Idanes Rodriguez, Councilmember Carolina Rivera, and the City Council as a whole for introducing this bill and ensuring this program remains a part of New York City for the future, expands to more communities, and can be cemented with permanent physical infrastructure on our streets. And lastly, I would like to thank all the volunteers who for over a year have helped maintain, program, and steward open streets every single day, rain, snow, or shine. They are the real heroes here. Again, thank you, Mayor de Blasio, for supporting this bill. We look forward to working together with you, the Department of Transportation, and the next administration to continue reimagining our streets as we recover from COVID-19. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Erwin. Thank you to you and everyone at Transportation Alternatives for working so hard to get us to this day. And as I said, we're going to be signing the Open Streets bill a little bit later on, but for today we'll sign the 4 other pieces of legislation. But first, just a quick few words of summary of today's hearing in Spanish. Seguimos en nuestra misión de recuperar una ciudad para todos con las leyes que firmamos hoy. Estas leyes protegen a inquilinos y ayudan a los neoyorquinos a prepararse para el retiro. También vamos a hacer permanente nuestro programa de calles abiertas para que todos puedan disfrutar del aire libre. With that, let us sign the legislation.
Do 6 times.
6 total?
Yeah, we're doing more for open space.
Okay, 6. So 1 or 2 for each. Okay. Okay, so these 4 laws are now signed. They are now law, and this is all really, really good stuff, helping to move this city forward and building a recovery for all of us. So with that, this hearing is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.